This is baseball, anywhere in the United States. But as a matter of fact, it's in Fairbanks, Alaska, and the time is almost midnight. I'm John McVane, reporting from the Big Land, Alaska. The Big Land. That is what Alaska meant in the language of the people who were here thousands of years before the first white man saw its shores. It is a big land, strange, exciting, mysterious. From the Arctic and the most northern point on the North American continent to places which lie in latitudes south of London, England. It is a land of contrasts. But perhaps the most startling fact is that in many ways it's just as modern as any of the other 49 states. Many of its people work in offices, wear shorts on summer weekends, follow big league baseball games, and complain about the taxes just like the rest of us. They live in apartments or split levels, go to Kiwanis or Rotary meetings, and take Sunday afternoon drives. So for our first look at modern Alaska, we begin here in the state's metropolis, Anchorage. For most people coming to Alaska, Anchorage, tucked away in the bend of the state, not too far north or too far south, is the first point of contact. Anchorage is the most exciting city in Alaska. By the standards of the rest of the country, it is the only city in Alaska. And quite naturally, when we started to try to find out about modern Alaska, we began with Anchorage, Center for Defense, Alaska's chief communications point with the rest of the world. A drive down 4th Avenue in Anchorage was an interesting beginning to our examination of the city. I hired a little sports car. George Beyer, mayor of Anchorage, who both knows and loves his hometown, volunteered to show me the sights. When you first see Anchorage, you think of it as a fairly small, ordinary American city. When you see the other towns in Alaska, you return and suddenly Anchorage seems a metropolis, a big, booming, busy city in comparison with any other population center in the state. Anchorage, between mountains and the sea, due north of Hawaii, is in what they call the banana belt, never terribly hot or terribly cold, next to the main agricultural area of the state. Founded in 1914 as the terminus for a railway that runs to Fairbanks in the interior, Anchorage 25 years ago had only 2,500 inhabitants. Now it has something over 90,000, almost half the people in the whole state. True, only 30 or 40,000 are civilians. But it has interesting shops, one or two tall buildings, the only first-class hotel in Alaska, the Westwood, and even traffic problems. The city has its trailer camps and its smart suburbs. While the cost of ordinary living isn't really any higher than New York, it does seem expensive to people from other parts of the country, and certainly the price of houses is very, very high. The town lives and prospers because of the military bases, Elmendorf and Fort Richardson, just outside. But its airfields connect with Europe and the Far East, and Anchorage is building an $8 million dock for trade with Japan. For the service families housed on the bases, life in Anchorage can be pleasant. Good shops and restaurants in the city, and no apartment hunting. Sometimes the visitor gets the impression that the main streets of Anchorage are just long lines of bars, cafes, and restaurants. The signs flicker on and off and make the streets gay at night. There is better food than is usually found in American restaurants, and there is plenty of entertainment in the city. But modern Anchorage is a center for the arts as well. One wise Anchorage woman said to me, anyone who can lift a finger either writes or paints, and if you can lift two fingers, you do both. Each June for the past 5 years, the city has held a music festival. Local symphony with visiting artists. Bach, Stravinsky, Beethoven, a visiting college band from down south, a local chorus. The big modern Anchorage High School is the center for all the activity of the festival. Students of music spend the whole month of June attending lectures, rehearsals, and literally hundreds rehearse and perform in the chorus, the symphony orchestra, and other groups. The Alaska Festival of Music began as an idea of Mrs. Mary Hale, who is still its coordinator. An exhibit of paintings by Alaskan artists is shown as a feature of the festival. And with Mrs. Hale as my guide, I spent a rewarding hour or two, and I asked Mrs. Hale to tell me about the exhibit.
This show, which you have just seen, represents the work of the members of our Alaskan Artists Guild, who collaborate with Festival of Music in making available an art exhibition at the same time as the concerts, recitals, etc., connected with our Festival of Music, directed by Robert Shaw.
Well, what would you say, in your opinion, was the most interesting of the paintings here?
Well, this would be rather hard to say. I think perhaps you will recall the Betty Park. By the way, she's the artist who did the painting which was presented to our President Eisenhower when he visited here in Anchorage. This painting is entitled, interestingly enough, Festival Rehearsal Number 2. You can pick out a few figures. It's impressionistic, but you see Mr. Shaw in his usual blue shirt. This is quite a painting, which says, in essence, what Betty thought was most interesting of this rehearsal.
Is there anything else that struck you particularly?
Well, I think of our lithographs, this one by Fred Mockatons would be most outstanding from an Alaskan point of view. It's called Seal Hunter. I think he's captured a great deal of the spirit of our fine Eskimo people.
What's the reason for this outburst of culture here? I mean, it seems to me that this is the same sort of thing that might very well happen in Darien, Connecticut, or Grosse Pointe, Michigan, or Berkeley, California, but perhaps you carry it farther. I mean, are you more interested in music and art than men and women in the other parts of the other states?
Well, I think not. Really, I think you are impressed when you find it here, because when you come to Anchorage, you don't expect to find music and art. Is this not?
Well, I think that's probably true. I expect to find snow and a few Eskimos.
Thanks to people like you, people everywhere will now know this is not all you find in Alaska. You do find art and you do find music. I think perhaps this festival has grown immensely because once a year, through the help of men like Mr. Shaw and Mr. Herbert and wonderful young artists who come and give of their talent so that we might have a festival. Once a year we have this concentration in which all of our chorus of 140 and all of our local orchestra and other people who play instruments from all over the country can come and work with these two wonderful men. We really have something special here. Once a year, people can come and hear all the combined forces, whereas in Connecticut, if it isn't in your town, you just very well drive to New York, and there it is, you know.
Modern Alaskans are serious about education, and many schools are being built. Here, for instance, on the outskirts of Anchorage, Alaska's first private college, Alaska Methodist University, opened its doors in the autumn of 1960 under President Frederick McGinnis, concentrating on liberal arts. From Anchorage, we flew some 350 miles inland to Fairbanks, the second biggest city in the state. Perhaps 12,000 people in the town, another 20 or 30,000, including service families outside. We went to see the University of Alaska, which trains 800 or 900 men and women students in mining, engineering, business, education, arts, and sciences. The state's university is growing under pressure of the demand for admissions. New buildings were going up. I was there in summer when temperature can go as high as 99 degrees. In winter, the mercury can drop to 66 below zero. Dr. Robert Wiegman, the vice president of the university, showed me the sites situated on a hilltop there with a view of the surrounding woods. I had never visited an educational institution exactly like this one, and I was curious about many aspects of university life. Dr. Wiegman, what are some of the chief problems of higher education here at the University of Alaska?
Well, I would say probably that one of our greatest problems is a matter of distance. This is a huge area up here, 1/5 the size of the United States. For example, we operate an Arctic research laboratory 600 miles to the north of the main campus here. And then we operate a community college 1,000 miles down to the southeast.
And this is all directed from this campus here.
That is right, it certainly is. So it causes problems in supervision, of course.
What about the weather problem, Dr. Wiegman? Do you have any of your students suffering from heat prostration?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's a common problem, but it is true that it does get warm here.
Well, right now it seems like the University of Miami or something. I'm getting a sunburn.
That's right. We have to provide in most of our major buildings here for the air circulation.
What about the winter? Does it get cold enough to affect the studies of the students here?
Oh, it gets a little cool now and then. 56 degrees below is the coldest that I've ever seen it. But actually, you know you dress for it up here, and it doesn't particularly bother you. They drive their cars. We have our head bolt heaters for them to keep the motors warm enough to start readily. Life goes on.
Why do students from the other 48 states come here? I understand that about 30% of your students come from outside.
Yes, that's right. It'd run about 30%. Some of them are brought up here, the lure of the last frontier. Some are brought up here for our professional schools in mining and in engineering, for example. We concentrate upon the northern studies and the problems which are unique to the Arctic areas, and that brings them up here to study.
I see that your campus is a growing one. It seems to me you're building buildings all over the place here.
Oh, we certainly are. That's right. We estimate on the basis of our high school population now that we'll double within the next 3 years, provided we can build dormitories fast enough to take care of them.
Flying is the most popular means of transportation in Alaska. To get anywhere, you almost always have to fly. And so many people fly their own aircraft that this particular Lake Hood near Anchorage has more seaplane traffic than any other single spot in the world. Thousands of Alaskans are accustomed to getting in their own aircraft and flying off on a hunting trip or to some lakeside cabin. Ministers and priests with parishioners scattered along distant streams and valleys, and especially the bishops, learn to fly their planes from tiny community to tiny community. We had to fly when we wanted to go down to the Kenai Peninsula, and that is practically around the corner from Anchorage. Music, art, education are one aspect of modern Alaska, but creating wealth out of the wilderness is another. Several companies are exploring for oil. When it is found, roads have to be cut through the deep woods, then the drilling derricks go up. One operation I happened upon by chance is reputed to have cost millions, and the drill, down many thousands of feet, had not yet struck. But on the Kenai Peninsula, oil is already flowing. I watched one of the new wells being drilled. Earl Walker, the drilling superintendent from Fort Worth, Texas, explained the operation. After I had clambered about the rig with Walker to see how it was all done, I talked over the situation with Jack Crooker of Standard of California and John Nelson of the Kenai Pipeline Company.
Well, I guess I don't need that anymore. Jack, did you think there was oil here before you actually found it?
Well, John, the oil companies felt there was oil here. We're actually producing it now, and Californians and Alaskans are using the products from this field.
Well, I can understand how the Alaskans might be using it, but how do you get it from here in the wilderness to California?
Well, this is a moose reserve, and we are actually taking the oil by tank truck to seawater, tidewater, and then by tanker to California.
How much do you move that way?
Well, we're only able to move about 750 barrels a day under this present arrangement.
Is there any more efficient way?
Yes. John Nelson here is constructing a pipeline so that we'll be in a position to move more oil. John,
how big a pipeline is that, John?
We have under construction an 8-inch pipeline which will run 20 miles to the coast at Cook Inlet.
Well, that sounds like quite a job. Are you running into any difficulties?
Well, the muskeg swamps here will present a problem. The wharf that will be built to dock the tankers will go out about 1,000 feet offshore on account of the 25-foot tides.
Well, how much do you think you can move with this 8-inch pipeline?
Well, the station we're designing now and the line will handle 10,000 barrels a day. This can be expanded in the future by the addition of more pumps.
You talked about the future. What is the future of this Kenai Peninsula? Do you expect to find, on the basis of your surveys and so forth, any more oil here?
Well, we hope so, John. Actually, we'll not be able to determine that until we drill more wells than determine.
I mean, all the book knowledge and so forth simply gives you an indication, and then when you sink the well and it actually comes bouncing up, that's it.
Yes.
What about the rest of Alaska? Is any, John, do you know of any other explorations being made?
Well, there is a fair amount of exploratory work being done by geophysical surveys here by several oil companies.
And there are other areas that look hopeful, do you know?
Well, there again, they have possibilities, but we will not be able to determine whether there's commercial production from those areas until additional wells are drilled.
What about the effect of this on Alaska's economy? Is it going to make some real difference to Alaska's economy?
Well, in the last 3 years, there have been approximately 200 families moved to Anchorage, and in this area alone, there are from 60 to 100 families, men working out here and families living on the Kenai Peninsula.
Well, would you say that it looks hopeful that in future, if there is an extension of this oil field, that it will be a major factor in Alaska's economy because of taxes and spending and that sort of thing?
Yes, just last year alone, the state of Alaska realized over $12 million in leases and bonuses paid for lands that will lead to additional exploratory work.
From the Kenai oil fields, we flew to Sitka to see another hopeful but rather odd aspect of Alaska's modern industry. On a fjord a few miles inland from Sitka on Catlin Bay is a brand new $60 million industry. 50 years ago, the U.S. government, after a survey, decided that Alaska could support 3 huge pulp mills at Ketchikan, Sitka, and Juneau. A mill at Ketchikan was established a few years ago. I attended the dedication of this mill at Sitka a few months ago, and nobody has yet done much about the proposed mill at Juneau except talk about it for about 50 years. It was Japanese big business that saw the possibilities at Sitka. Ocean freighters from Japan come up the fjord, load bales of pulp, carry them off to Japan's rayon industry. A river has been harnessed. Huge saws cut the logs. Water jets with a pressure of 1,600 pounds per square inch strip off the bark. Choppers reduce the logs to a mash. Chemical cookers work on the result. When it comes out, bales of pulp, looking like rough paper, are loaded aboard the freighters. Sitka is suddenly becoming modern Alaska. To get an authoritative view on modern Alaska, I went to the Anchorage Daily Times. Bob Atwood, the publisher, who has been putting out Alaska's leading paper for 25 years. Mr. Atwood, do you think that the people in the other 48 states understand Alaska, know what it is today? Do you find when you go down there that people still think it's a land of Eskimos, or do they know that it's pretty it's a modern place?
I'd say generally, yes. The understanding of Alaska is, well, you can't say nil. It's better than it used to be because so many soldiers were up here during the war, I guess, and they went home and they spread the word that it isn't all ice and snow and dog teams, but the public understanding of Alaska is still at a very low level. It's still so that some of us, when we go out traveling, we don't reveal we're from Alaska. We're just sick of these stupid questions. Do you live in an igloo? And do you carry a lantern 6 months of the year? And that stuff, and you get tired of it.
Yeah.
If you tell people the truth, they think you're kidding them. So the easiest thing is say, yes, I live in an igloo and I carry a lantern 6 months of the year, and then they don't ask you any more questions.
Does the weather up here have any influence on the character of the people? Does it make them more depressed or
well, you hear a lot
from
about
other
that.
people?
You hear a lot about the cabin fever that develops in the winter. But we had a convention of psychiatrists or something here, and they had or scientists, psychiatrists were among them. And I remember there was one paper that there is no scientific explanation of cabin fever. There is no such thing scientifically. But to us in Alaska, cabin fever has a very real connotation. You sit around in a little cabin all winter with nights from 2 p.m. until 9 or 9:30 in the morning, long nights, and cold days and nights, and this goes on for a whole long winter, you can get what we call cabin fever. You just got to get out of there.
Is there any particular stamp that the Alaskan has that differs him? We know he's very much like his colleagues in the other states, but what are the differences between Alaskans and other people?
You're bringing up a very interesting subject, one that I've been interested in, and I found in sociological books certain points, and many of them that apply to Alaskans, and I think it makes them what the sociologists call a select group. First of all, we have a population here that has undergone what they call the screening of migration. Everybody has left their homes, their associations, their friends, packed their suitcases and gone to a strange land, come here to make a place for themselves. Now that takes courage, adventure, and oomph, you know. Then many people, now I've known people, I ran across some people on Halsted Street in Chicago who'd never been down to the Loop. And you can find them in New York.
Not much adventure there.
You go back to New York and you can find people who just haven't been out of a little circle there, don't know anything about the rest of the world. And all over the country it's that way. People just don't move. But here you have a whole population. Everybody has traveled at least 2,000 miles to get here. Nobody is here because they're stuck or by chance. They're here by choice. They can leave if they want to. And it makes a very unusual place, especially an unusual population to put out a newspaper for. I find that every reader is a better editor than the editor.
And tells you so?
Oh, very readily. And, of course, we're all better city managers than the city manager is, and on you go. We're all generals, and we can run everything. But it goes right on through everything in town. Mediocrity is recognized and isn't approved of, generally. Now, our school system, we have a marvelous school system. And when we put on a performance, you will see some things around here. It's done with quite a degree of finesse. It's not a little frontier town. Now, I went to a little town outside of Topeka, Kansas once, a high school graduation. That is supposed to be quite a dignified occasion. I found the hall had no spitting signs all around the hall. Well, we wouldn't think of having a thing like that.
Well, they tell me, people who've been here, or come here fairly recently, tell me that one thing they like is the friendliness of people. You find that your neighbors, you get to know them better than you do in other cities? Or?
That's part of life in Alaska. I don't know what it is, but you have more friends, more real friends. You're closer together. It's like a fraternity, I call it. When you come here and live here, you're joining a fraternity, and you go through a period when you're a Chichaco, which is the newcomer, and you have only limited rights. It's not your privilege to criticize us. After all, who are you to tell us how to run our country when you're a newcomer?
Yes.
But once you're in, then you can tell us, and you can gripe with all of us. And you join and you fight all the same battles. You come up against the same frustrations. For instance, if we can't get capital to come here and develop our mineral wealth, the resources that we have, we're going to be frustrated. We're all together in it. And if you stay around here holding that thing and we keep talking here, pretty soon you're going to be on my side here joining me in what ought to be done about this. And we're going to be together. And you get this friendliness all over Alaska. And anywhere you go in Alaska, there's a bind that brings them together because they've been fighting these battles, even they get up in the Arctic, even surviving a cold winter or some
undergoing hardships as you might in combat in the Army, for instance, in wartime, which draws people.
It goes in all phases of life around here.
So there's been quite a difference then between the days when people used to come to Alaska simply to snatch what they could from the place and get out, and today, and you've seen the difference.
Oh, yes, yes. Now it's all permanent. Well, my goodness, when I came here, nobody built a house with concrete foundations. Wooden ones would
put up a little shack because they might be away next year.
But you find also back in those days, the federal government did the same thing. When they built a post office, it was a shack. If they built a courthouse, it was a shack. Whatever they built, it was just a temporary thing. And the Alaska Railroad had no ballast in the whole track from Seward to Fairbanks. Well, now when the Alaska Railroad put in ballast and put in steel bridges instead of dryling piles, and when the federal government started building concrete post offices, Then you find the little homeowners started putting in concrete.
Alaskans knew they were here to stay.
Yes, and then pretty soon the city is doing it. We got a concrete city hall, and then the schools start building better. And pretty soon the businesses are in the whole town, and we're all here to stay, and we know it.
Well, you certainly have made a career of your life here in the last 25 years, and I know it's going to go on for
it's been a lot
many
of fun.
years in future.
The future is the thing. We're always talking about the future. It's very seldom we stop and talk about the past. We haven't done anything yet. We haven't scratched the surface. This is a tremendous country. It could support a huge population. People have said it could support as much population as Scandinavia, which is about 17 million. We have all these resources here, and the United States doesn't seem to need them. We find the United States capital going to Africa. With all the political turmoil going on in Africa, and here the U.S. dollars are going there for investment to build railroads and harbors and develop mines and bring out some of the very same minerals we have, that sort of gets us. We wonder, why can't we get that U.S. money to come here? Why can't we supply these raw materials for the industry of the U.S.? Now there are reasons. We're going to find out. We have to find out. But meanwhile, our first concern is, are we doing all that we should do to make ourselves attractive to that capital? And that's where we get into arguments with the administration of our state affairs, with our politicians. Are they doing the right thing or aren't they? And Alaskans are all have a big tug of war on that point. How it's going to come out is too soon to know. But we think we're going to win.
From here, on top of one of the two tallest buildings in Anchorage, one can see the larger part of what we may call modern Alaska, the city itself. Other communities may be interesting for various reasons, but most are small towns or smaller villages by the standards of the lower 48 states. It is only here that the traveler really feels himself in a modern city, although there are but 30 or 40,000 civilians, and the economy depends, as that of some other American cities, upon nearby military bases. Many can remember when Anchorage itself was a village of 2,000 or 3,000. But today, it is the center for the business development, the cultural activities, and the enthusiasms which have created the nucleus of modern Alaska.
This is National Educational Television.